Okay, so welcome to Yorkshire Business Focus, and this time round we're with Victoria Williams from Lightwater Family Adventure Park. Welcome, Victoria.
Hello, hello.
Hi, great to have you on. So tell us a bit about yourself. Go on, let's have the description of Lightwater Valley. Tell us about that and how you came to be there.
Well, Lightwater Valley Family Adventure Park, as it is now, obviously Lightwater Valley, many people will remember it with the ultimate roller coaster and various other big adult attractions. A couple of years ago, Brighton Peer Group took over from Livingston Leisure, and Livingston Leisure, they had to sort of basically sell a lot of the big rides. So when Brighton Peer Group took over, we decided to rebrand it into a family adventure park, which is focused around a lot more sort of interactive, family fun when families play together. So we've got our tree top next. We've still got some quite big rides that aren't for the faint-hearted, like Keeper's Claw and Dragon Drop. But the main thing is we're in 125 acres of beautiful North Yorkshire countryside, and it is a place to families to come and have great fun together. That is the strapline.
Yeah. All right, brilliant. And your role there, Victoria, what do you do?
I'm the general manager. I've been here literally about a day over a year now. I started on Monday this time last year.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm relatively new. This is my first big season.
Absolutely brilliant. And what did you do before that? What's the history that leads you to be in North Yorkshire running a family adventure park?
I've mainly been in sort of hospitality, food and beverage, leisure, business in my entire career. I started off doing a hotel and catering management degree at Oxford Poly, Oxford Brookes University as is now. So I can say Oxford, you think, I guess. And then moved into the leisure business. First leisure, first of all, which was a great grounding. I was on the graduate scheme for them. And then from then went into their sports division, running 10-pit bowling centres. I moved across into the pub game because the bowling centres that I was running then got taken over by Bass. And then Bass Leisure Retail wanted me as an area manager, so I moved into the area managers of pubs role, which it was a definite learning curve. I learned an awful lot about people. I learned an awful lot about stuff, not least, unfortunately, how to sort of generate business from failing businesses, etc. So did an awful lot of that. Worked for Bass in total for about 10 years, and then got headhunted to go to work for Pizza Hut. I had 5 or 6 years in Pizza Hut UK, and then moved from there into various roles. I spent 4 years in car parking, 4 years that I will never get back, and then ran back towards the leisure business again. Because that's what I enjoy. I mean, you get lots of lovely complaints in car parking, but at least you're trying to make people happy in the leisure business rather than just park their cars. So yes, I don't miss the car parking trade. And then from there, went to work at Chill Factory in Manchester, which is a big ski centre over there. Got headhunted to go over to work in Dubai. I worked in Dubai for 4 years just recently. Came back, worked at Kidzania in Dubai. I ran the Kidzania in Dubai and also ran the Kidzania in London as well. Moved out to Northern Ireland to set up the Game of Thrones attraction over there, which was amazing, and still is an incredible attraction. Go and visit if you're ever over there. And then basically, back over to Blighty, if you like, running this wonderful theme park here, which is now a family adventure park, as I say. So very, very happy doing what I'm doing.
Wow. Wow, it's a hell of a journey, Victoria. Hell of a journey. Haven't you seen some stuff along the way?
I've lived and I've learned, actually, Ian. And my predominant learning, I think, from my whole experience and my whole general experience within all the industries I've worked in is you get the results from people, and how you treat the people is how you how successful you are in business. And that's something that I've tried to put in. As I said, I've been here for a year at the Family Adventure Park, and I've changed quite a bit, although I've left lots of it still the same, because clearly the business was being run by some very capable and very enthusiastic people, and quite a lot of people who've been here for a long, long time. So I wasn't going to come in and say, no, you do it like this. I sort of worked up with them our vision, our mission, our values. I changed all their job descriptions to make sure they were all happy, knowing what they were doing, and objectives and appraisals and all that sort of malarkey. And then opened again in Easter with a whole new training program, and again, very clear objectives for everybody who I work with, and I think respect and integrity and all of that running through it. We've got great recognition systems. We've got new incentives going on for all the team. We've got our values that I recognise people on with our badges, and badges here, and all sorts of lovely things.
That's kind of core to it. Yeah, absolutely. So you've clearly, I mean, the storyteller around people and how you take Lightwater Family Adventure Park to that place, that's obviously the way to come to success. But I'm guessing that on the way to that, those learnings you had from people along the way, there must have been occasions when it hasn't worked along the way. So what's one of the standout examples for you? I mean, when we learn by doing stuff, it's kind of learning in the fire, isn't it? We get these learnings forged into us when we do it wrong, when it goes wrong. Have you got any kind of those stories?
Oh, yes. I mean, I'm the first to admit when I make a mistake as well, and I think if you don't as a leader, then that undermines your credibility hugely. And I think I've learned, this probably sounds awful, but I've probably learned how not to do things from people I've worked for that aren't necessarily in the best position or in the best leadership position. So I think when things have gone wrong for me, I'm very, very swift to put it right, or also to admit it and then put it right. I think I've made the wrong appointment before now. And had to manage somebody out, which you don't particularly want to have to do. But when you have made a mistake or your judgment or whatever is in question, you have to then sort of bite the bullet and go, this person isn't the right person for the role, so I'm going to have to performance manage them out in a fair and supportive way. But nevertheless, that isn't something that we like doing every day, but we have to do it. I think you can sort of see, well, okay, then where do I go wrong? My team will always tell me that I always look at the root cause, so rather than just going, you've done something wrong, I look at things, well, okay, then, so why has that actually happened? And another one of my favourite phrases is look in the mirror. What could I have done differently to have a different outcome?
I love that. That's so powerful as well, isn't it? And when you use that as a leadership tool, then everybody else starts to do the same thing, because you give them permission to do that. Yeah.
It's like, okay, then we had a customer complaint or something's happened. And I mean, I was talking to my catering manager just recently, and we just changed something, how we do something in our grill cafe, and we've added a new item which has actually complicated the process, and we've had a few complaints as a result of that. And you sort of go, okay, then this isn't a witch hunt. I'm not trying to sort of say that these people are doing things wrong, but how come we've not put the right process in? What do we need to do in order so that we've got the right process? So and just as something as simple as serving a meal to someone, physically taking the money, moving that, put that receipt there, make up the order, okay, they all ordered a vegan burger, right? Well, that had to be cooked to order. So you don't put the first up on the front until the vegan burger was cooked. So, you've just got to look at the root cause of that particular complaint or that particular challenge or that particular mistake.
Absolutely. It's one of the few occasions where the question why actually takes you somewhere constructive rather than asking for an excuse, isn't it?
Absolutely. And again, what have I done? So okay, with hindsight, maybe with my team were fantastic. We decided to do something, and it was in the next day. But actually, looking in the mirror, well, actually, if we'd have given it an extra day, we'd have probably worked that out for ourselves. But obviously, we were trying to get things done quickly. So it's again, I mean, the answer might be, actually, yes, it was the right thing to do. And yes, we did make a mistake, but it was the right thing to have it all on sale on Thursday. Launching on Friday, because actually we took X amount of money and it was working. And actually, for the majority of the customers, they had a great experience. So, yes, it wasn't the right thing. I always like looking back. I do tend to look myself an awful lot.
But it doesn't seem to be a natural thing, though. You don't find that many people who have actually worked out that there's above and below the line, and below the line you're kind of looking for blame and excuses, and above the line we're taking ownership and accountability. So that looking in the mirror thing is quite a special skill. How did you come to learn that skill and practice it so well?
Well, I mean, it's laughable actually, because I've just actually run a leadership course for my team, and again, you know, because we're such a small, you know, business, if you like, you know, the general manager of something doing that without any sort of like HR support or whatever. I've done business mentoring myself. I've done leadership coaching myself. So I can sort of see what my team needed. So I've just run a leadership course, and part of that leadership course was two things. Was the book Surrounded by Idiots. I don't know if you've heard that one.
No, the book, yeah, know it well, yeah.
And the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. Those
Brilliant
two books have actually been, well, Surrounded by Idiots most recently, but How to Win Friends and Influence People has been my go-to book. It's been on my bedside table for probably 30 years, because I love dipping in and dipping out of it. I always revert to stories myself, and that book obviously has that as a mechanism. And I read that when I was 18, and I probably read it, you know, every month ever since, just a bit, because there's always a story that's applied. And it's funny because I actually recommended somebody read it when I was in Dubai. Actually, one of my my finance managers, I recommended he read it, and he listened to it on audiobook within a week. And at the end of the week, he came to me and he said, Victoria, he said, I now know why you are how you are. And I hadn't read it for years, and I thought, wow, that must have had such an impact on me, because that isn't a book about business. It's not a, you know, 7 habits of, you know, management or anything. It's none of these sort of really hard books about do this and do that and you will be successful. And you know, I've got them all behind me. I think, I've got Surrounded by Idiots. How to Win Friends. You know, but you know, it's not like the 10-day MBA or the leadership gap or anything like that. This is about how to treat people, and I think that's why I am who I am. And I always look at myself, because actually, you know, how do I make somebody want to do something? How do I interact with that person on their terms? You know, the Surrounded by Idiots book has got a wonderful quote in there that says, you know, communication happens on the listener's terms.
Absolutely.
And that to me that's been running through my life, to be honest with you, Ian. And I think that's when I always put myself in the other person's shoes, and it comes naturally to me, which is why then I'm thinking, okay, then what have I done that made them think that way?
Made that communication.
Made them behave that way. So that's why I tend to go back. And that's when I was doing a leadership course with my team, you know.
So both those books really talk about communication, don't they? And they really talk about communication, as you say, on other people's terms. So that's kind of trying to get your team to then to stand in other people's shoes when they have the conversations. And is that the learning that you've come up with? How do you come to that learning in life? Was that just reading How to Win Friends, or has there been more experience? Who would be the role model that's led you to that?
Well, again, I think, you know, as I mentioned before, you learn bad habits. So you learn how not to do things from people that don't do things as well as you'd hope to do. And I have worked for some, unfortunately, very poor leaders over my life. But I've also worked with some good ones. And you sort of go, actually, that worked. And I'm quite reflective. I think it's probably because when I worked for Pizza Hut, actually, Pizza Hut themselves were very, very good at developing people. And so I went on every training course. As I mentioned, I was on the graduate training course with First Leisure. And they put you on courses, which was fabulous. And so I sort of suck all of that up. And then I sort of take from it, you know, things. But Pizza Hut used to do things like, you know, they had a training course, and then they'd encourage you to write a letter to yourself. Yeah. And then they would send that letter to yourself back to you 3 months after, going, remember what you said to yourself.
That's really interesting. And if you read Influence by Cialdini, he talks in there about once you actually write down what you know, your own goals, when you write down the kind of person you are, then you will live up to that. So there's a lot of psychology lives behind that, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think you've got to be self-motivated. And I'm very reflective as well about the value that I'm adding. And as I mentioned, if I make a mistake, I tend to admit it first off, and I'll admit it to everybody. I really wear my heart on my sleeve, which sometimes is a bit of a downfall. That's what I'm, but I do feel that, when you're driving home at night and you look at the day that you've had, in hospitality, it's usually about a 12-hour day, but at least. But you're driving home and you're just thinking, well, have I earned my salary today? Have I have I added value to the business? What have I actually done? Or have I just been running around, like a headless chicken, having an impact? And actually, that sometimes focuses the mind, going, yes, actually, I have, have I been focusing on my objective? That's something again that I've tried to get to my team to work, because again, this business, I wouldn't say wasn't run badly before I came, but again, giving people really clear job descriptions, giving people really clear objectives, and agreeing those from the outset, and then agreeing what good looks like, so smart objectives and all that. You can then go, actually, have I spent my entire day working through any or all of my objectives? And if there's something that you spent your entire day doing that isn't on your objectives list, then either your objectives are wrong or what you've been doing is wrong.
Brilliant.
I've been really, really conscious of that. And obviously, having a 6-month review, we've just gone through the first 6-month review for my leadership team. And they've never done anything. I'm not judging people who've never done anything like this before. And it's great to see, because I was saying,
because at that stage they then get the feedback, because now you've told them what success looks like, and they can see how far they're moving towards success. What does that do for the team around you? How does that leave them feeling? What's the intrinsic changes that brings?
Well, it brings ownership and empowerment, and people realise that actually, the buck stops with them. Especially the leaders in the business. I'm just trying to develop my catering manager I mentioned, and she's just literally she's now being sort of an acting catering manager, because the catering manager before her left, and it's like, well, she was a very, very junior member of the team, but she's like a sponge. And she's absolutely brilliant, because you ask her to do something and she's often doing it. And she, and in the leadership course that I did with her, she'd never done anything like this before. She's in her early 20s, and she'd never done anything like this before. And you can see, because my training and compliance and HR manager helped her with some of her own appraisals, and she was doing them with the supervisors, and she'd taken everything, she was putting it into practice, and that then makes the supervisors empowered. And I've got now supervisors that are like, yes, okay, and they're like taking these complaints that we've had over the weekend really seriously, and going, we're going to do this, we're going to change that. And I'm going to work
the gift of feedback, and when it's taken as a gift, it makes such a difference in the business. I absolutely love that. I think there's something that Sir Clive Woodward talks about rocks and sponges.
Yes.
And there's some people in the team who are rocks, and there's some who are sponges, and the sponges, they're the ones that I do love that. But I love that piece about reflection as well. So you mentioned, life being a mirror and reflection, and actually sitting in your car on the way home and reflecting, did they get value for money out of me? I don't suspect there's many people actually do sit in the car on their way home from work and go, did my business get value for money from me? Where does that come from? When did you start to get that habit, and what drove it?
I think it was the feedback culture that we had in Pizza Hut. As I mentioned, I worked for Bass, which was a great company to work for. It's now M&B, and I'm still in touch with a lot of people still there. But they were very much a sort of, here's the values, put those in your pocket. They might be different now, but in those days it was very much, here's the values, and I wouldn't even read them again. When I started working for Pizza Hut, they had a set of values, they had a set of principles, and everybody lived by them, and there was a real feedback culture. And whenever you hear the word feedback, and again, I've been talking to my team about this only recently, whenever you hear the feedback, you tend to sort of go, oh, feedback.
It's kind of got a bad press over the years, hasn't it?
Yeah. But actually, by asking for feedback, saying, look, I've done this, how would you have done it? Would you have approached it the same way, or asking for feedback? And I do that, and it's funny actually, because again, I've done this leadership course a year into my tenure, and at the end of every one-to-one, at the end of every appraisal, or not necessarily at the end, but certainly during it, I will say, and how are we getting on? How's our our relationship. You haven't got any feedback for me. And I mean, you know, is anything that's really hacked you off that I've done? And actually, a few people have actually said, yeah, actually, I'm going to completely take you, absolutely, I was wrong. Or, well, maybe you're being a bit oversensitive because you know that that came from a good place. And, you know, maybe I should have done it to make sense. Thank you. And that, I think, me actually going ahead of the leadership course and saying, look, ask for feedback, and they sort of say, well, that's what you do, isn't it, Victoria? Well, yes, it is. Right. And I find that helps, because now I know there's certain areas of things that I could have done differently. I think it's come from, I mean, I know I mentioned Pizza Hut, but they did know how to, well, they believed in people. They had a set of values that was very clear. They recognised on it. In fact, I mean, funnily enough, there was a recognition system in Pizza Hut that I basically now put into every single business that I've ever worked in since Pizza Hut, which is basically recognising, this goes recognition for living the Lightwater Valley values. I recognise this person for living the Lightwater Valley values, and then there's a place to put it in. Brilliant. And these are the values that we've got: caring and genuine, smiles and memories, teamwork and excellence. They tick which one it was, they do it, and then what they do is they flick that onto a huge smiley board in the team. Brilliant. Yeah, and then those smileys, those smileys all get mixed up at the end.
Aggregated. Yeah.
We pull one out at random, and then we have a poster that goes up everywhere, and it talks about it. Now that is just reinforcing the values that we've already discovered.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it also gives feedback. I hope it gives feedback into the values as well, because it's all well and good setting the values, but over a period of time, even bringing on board people who are fully on board with the values, things change, don't they? So one needs to be able to. So how do you as a team review those values?
And the appraisals, because they're within the appraisal system.
Right, brilliant, cool.
So,
and what's the great questions that you ask in the appraisal then to explore the value?
Because so the communication again, we've got really clear parameters. So the values, then this is the handbook that I've written. So we have a very clear mission, goals, and values. Section. You know, who are we? What do we do? Etc. And then with those values, we live our values, but we will and we won't. So within each value, so for instance, we create smile and memories. We will put ourselves in the kids' shoes and make their day. We won't lose sight of the fact that we're here to make our guests' day. You know, and actually, and it sounds a bit harsh, but you can actually performance manage people on this, because that's
absolutely
them to go, actually, on this occasion, you didn't do that, and you did unfortunately do this. Yeah. And that is not what we expect. So in future, I'd like to see this improvement from you. And it makes life a lot easier. And it's funny actually, because again, the lady I was talking to you about, the catering team leader, sorry, the catering manager, has actually used this already, and actually used the we wills and the we won'ts in her feedback to her team. So it gives everybody some language to use. It gives confidence to say that wasn't right, or that was right. And of course, you know, they use the recognition system to catch people doing things right, and we use the we wills and we won'ts to catch them doing things wrong. But actually, performance management isn't about accepting people; it's about getting them to do things right. So it's amazing. You know, I'm really passionate that you do everything through people, and I'm really pleased that the output of all of this, Ian, is that I'm, you know, blowing my own trumpet here, but our visitor scores on feedback, you know, from Facebook, you know, TripAdvisor and Google, all of those reviews are coming in far in excess of what they were last year. So we are definitely letting the team perform so that we're actually making the guests happy, which at the end of the day is what we want, because we want to make more money. That's why we're here. You know, and let's not be you know, embarrassed about that fact. You know, people who spend money, people who are happy will spend money with us and come back. So that is the whole. That's the whole point. Yeah. When I sat in this chair, sort of probably at the end of last season, I said to my team, you know, we did a bit of a review, and I said, right, the success of 2023 will be down to our recruitment, our training, and our staff engagement. That will be the three big things that we will need to be focusing on. So we had a big staff engagement meeting. We talked about how we get all the team doing it. We revamped our team room. We did this, we did that. We made sure everything's really clear, and we've done what we set out to do. So tell me, Victoria, right? You do this stellar career.
lots of variety through there, shifting quite quickly through a number of companies, and I'm going to imagine making a massive impact in each of those companies you went through. What drives you? What drives that fire that takes you into these companies to drive them so hard to well, reform, for want of a better word?
I am quite selfish really, because I get a real buzz out of seeing people happy and perform and get a real value out of my leadership.
Tell me about that buzz. Why do you get a buzz out of about that leadership part?
Because I'm really passionate to help people and help people grow, and I love that. I mean, when I'm talking to you about my recognition system, about my values, and things like that, I haven't foisted this on them. At the end of the day, how to influence and influence people. This was all brought in by the team. I sat with something right, okay, you decide what our values are. Okay, let's bring those forward. Okay, you decide what our mission is. Okay, let's bring that. I see people then, as I mentioned just before, when I'm in an appraisal, I mean, when you do an appraisal, it's 2 hours, of solid, stuff.
Yeah, solid digging in,
Maybe 3 appraisals a day with my peer leadership team, and I'll be on cloud 9 at the end, because I feel that I've really added value to their lives as well.
And why is that important to you, Victoria? Why do you need to add value to other people's lives?
I like to see people happy. I'm a happy person. I like to see.
Why do you like to see people happy? What's that about?
You see my blood, I know it's always happening. It's funny that it's an interesting question. I don't think I've ever asked me. Why do I want to see people happy? I don't know. I like it. It's very selfish, I suppose. I get a buzz out of it. So I get a buzz about helping people and interacting with people. I like telling people stories and making them laugh. I like sort of engaging with people and talking to people on their level and at their level in order to help them grow into better people. Not those better people for my purposes, just to help them really. I talk about personal things. We have a great rapport. We're like a big family here. And it's just lovely to see things happen. I just wish the weather was better, because that would make me even more happy, and then we would make
more. Nothing we can do about that. So if that making people happy and having happy people around you, so but does that go back into your childhood? Is that something that you can remember from being in childhood, that you were surrounded by happy people, or was there something in there? How does that work for you?
Gosh, that's an interesting one. Well, I don't want to get too emotional, but I lost my mum last year, and I have to say that she's very much like me. We were very, very close. So maybe it's just her.
You just want to carry that on. I get that. Yeah. And if you go back to that child, that 10-year-old, you go back, what would you say to the 10-year-old Victoria right now? What's the big message you'd like to pass back?
Believe in yourself, actually. Believe in yourself, because I went to a very posh all-girls school. Maybe not 10, but later on, and it was really academic. And I wouldn't say that I'm an academic sort of person. Sorry, I have a tear now to talk about it. But I went to a very, very posh, not posh, but it's a school in Manchester, and all-girls school. And I didn't struggle, but I didn't think I was very good, because I was put with very, very high-flying girls.
Yeah.
And therefore, I used to get the B minuses and C. And then I left school at 16, having got 8 O-levels rather than 9. Therefore, I'd failed. I was a failure.
According to whose standard? According to your standards, or?
According to the governors, actually, of that particular school. I can remember they said anybody that's failed an O-level, who had failed by the wayside, but that's another story. I'm not bitter. But I went to Stockport College then to do a business course.
Yeah.
And suddenly people were coming to me because I was helping them. And I thought, oh, actually, I must think.
And I can see it in the physiology. That's where the buzz came in, isn't it? As soon as people come to you, that was it. That was your moment. That was your realization.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and again, my mum actually said, don't decide, don't make a decision on what you want to turn your life into. The business course actually was brilliant, because it had a bit of everything: marketing and finance. And I thought I hated maths, but give me a spreadsheet now, I'm in there.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting how the pure academic school couldn't fire the interest in mathematics, but a spreadsheet, a P&L will completely engage you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And me and my P&Ls like that, but it is about, but it's also about how you're treated and how you believe in people.
Yes.
And I think that belief, that's probably the thread. It's a really interesting question, that, and as I said, you've got me all emotional. But it is that sort of pure, understanding that actually, you're better than you think. And then when I went to Stockport College, when I went to Stockport College, I got a distinction in my business course. Then one of the most earliest vocational degrees, really, which was I was in the catering management at Oxford Poly, which again was the centre of excellence, the honours degree there. The 4-year course, and the first year I'd actually already done because I'd done the business course. And so that gave me such an amazing sort of boost. I'm good at this. And then they threw you out into industrial release.
And so when you got to that first year and you realised you already knew that stuff, is that the moment where the opinion of the governors at the posh school, you actually at that stage, you've got enough self-belief at that stage, you can dismiss that was in history and that was their opinion, they're welcome to it?
Yes. I mean, absolutely. And I think that it does show that you can do it. I mean, I've got 2 brothers, both of whom went to Manchester Grammar School, and one brother really thrived, and the other brother hated every minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's the same sort of thing. It's like but he's really happy doing what he's doing, and my other brother runs a national bank in South England. So yeah, it's amazing, how different people go to different things and you find your niche. But I mean, the good thing is, and I am very proud of the fact that I've sort of taken everything, even my industrial release year.
Yeah.
Again, I was like a bit of a sponge, and you can sort of see interacting with guests, being behind the bar, in the days before your POS systems, adding up your till with your, in your head, all those sort of practical things, and that relationship with people. I found that I was actually very good at that, and I could get results through people. So I sort of, my leadership was that then, supported by good training courses, solid with First Leisure, unfortunately no longer, but funnily enough, some of the First Leisure units and some of the First Leisure businesses are actually now part of the Brighton Peer Group, which is quite funny. So things that goes around comes around. But I mean, another one of my phrases, every day is a school day, as many people say, but actually looking at things and root causes of things and finding out why things work.
Yeah, absolutely. And finding that drive, which was really when people came to see you to ask for your advice, then that's the moment when you find out what your real strength is. And I love that realization and how that then transformed things for you. How do you feel your attitude to life was before you had that moment at Stockport College?
I thought I was big. I just thought that I wasn't an academic. I was good at cookery. I used to get 10 out of 10 for my cookery stuff. I love cooking. I love catering and entertaining people and all that. But that was really what I was good at. And and funnily enough, again, this is really funny. My mum said, because she used to teach at pre-small school, she used to teach night school, catering classes, cooking and stuff like that. And she said, go and learn to type, because my school was far less, far more academic. Certainly wouldn't put girls in front of a typewriter, because that would be, So, and this was before computers and all of this, but my mum said, go and learn to type. And so I did my typing thing at night school. And it's those sort of things that now, I can touch type, and it's like, wow, the practical.
It's those skill sets we pick up and we have no idea when they're going to come back in life, but they so frequently do, don't they? I absolutely love that. Yeah, brilliant.
Lots of little sort of little moments and things like that you look back and you think, yeah, actually that was a really good thing that I did, and that was the right choice. And also, I think another thing, I don't have hard. Well, I always say, don't regret things. You make a decision.
Yeah.
Based on what you know at the time. Your judgment comes from mistakes you make. You make the decisions, and I personally had quite a tumultuous time in Dubai. It wasn't a good place. I enjoyed the role I was in and things like that, but working within an environment that was very different to ours with the values. I now know my personal values of trust, integrity, and respect. And when you come back into an environment that's got more and you feel really uncomfortable, but you're not quite sure why, and then you come back into the environment that has trust, integrity, and respect, I now know that those are my personal values. And so you learn. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing unless I did all the three.
And what's the power of knowing your own personal values?
Well, because as I said, people say, did you enjoy Dubai? Well, I enjoyed the sun. I enjoyed the fact that I enjoyed the people. I missed my team hugely. I'm still in touch with a lot of them over Facebook and LinkedIn. But I think the value of it is when you come back into an environment that you can think, I can work within this. When I was in Dubai, it was quite hard because there did seem to be, that integrity wasn't there, that respect for people wasn't there, and I didn't actually know why at the time. I felt so uncomfortable in that.
And that's always the key test, isn't it? If we want to find out what our values are, we have to look at when somebody's really pissed us off, and that's because they stood on one of our values. And I find it's one of the best ways of highlighting it. I don't think many people sit down and take the time to understand their own personal values, though.
Well, again, talking to my I talk about your own personal brand. Your own brand values of yourself, and and that's why judgment comes in, because it's like, well, is that am I being true to myself if I do that? And often if you sort of use that as a bit of a litmus test and think, well, actually, am I behaving like I outwardly want people to think that I always behave, then you go, actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to have to change that, or I'm going to do that. That is the right thing to do. I'm quite reflective in that regard. I am.
I think being reflective is a theme that's come right the way through here. We've had more mirrors and reflection in this call than any other podcast that I've run, which is really, really interesting, bearing in mind the kind of meteoric career and the immense care you put into the organisation you've got around you. That's been absolutely brilliant.
I'm very passionate, and I remember there was something that happened recently, that something was misunderstood and something was misconstrued or whatever, and I took it very personally, and I actually had a tear, and I remember, and I said to I said, I'm sorry, I'm getting really emotional here, but I'm so passionate to make this right. That's right. It was something to do with HR and the communication with my team, and I was told that I couldn't because of X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, it's the right thing to do, and I got so passionate. We worked our way through and we did it, but I was surprised. It took me a bit by surprise that I was so emotionally attached to that particular thing, because I really care for this business, and I really care to make it a great place to work for my team. And if something stands in my way, then it really upsets me, So I suppose it's that passion to make it happen.
And that's also having trust in the people around you, that you can allow yourself to become that passionate and express it. I do love that.
Well, it's vulnerability, isn't it?
It is. And one of the questions I was, as you were talking about the leadership piece, it was like, we need to ask what leadership is, but that was it for you. It's that vulnerability, isn't it?
It is, yes, yeah. And I mean, when they sort of talk about, your personality types and things like that, and I've had more, psychometric tests that you can take a stick at, but always that comes out is, I'm far too wordy. I do talk too much. I do tend to be a bit more sort of, a bit quite direct, and I really do feel passionate about things. But what also comes across is that vulnerability as well, and the fact that I am sometimes over collaborative, because I don't really want to go, oh, this is my way, I want you to do it this way. I'm not a big stick sort of person. I'm like, okay, then, so how are we going to do this? What are the key issues? How can I help you achieve? What are the problems that we can tackle, rather than saying this is the solution? And I do sometimes do that as well.
Yes. That's a great thing about the personality profiling, and it tells you where you're going to go under stress. And that's the interesting one to know. That's absolutely brilliant. Victoria, we have run out of time. Thank you so much for that. What a great insight into leadership, reflection, and understanding ourselves and where we come from. I absolutely love that. Thank you very much for coming on Yorkshire Business Focus. It's been absolutely brilliant to see you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely super. Right, so thank you very much, everybody, for coming to Yorkshire Business Focus, and we're back on again next week. Thank you very much.